Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the IKoK, the International Coalition of Krones bi-monthly chat. Actually, this being November, we're only going to do one chat this month and one next month, just for those who might not remember. I think we mentioned that in the last chat. We just want everyone to know you won't be missing something. And we're just kind of taking a break with the holidays. So let me introduce myself. I am Essence Katharis, founder and one of the Krones of the International Koalition of Krones. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to take a moment here and ask the other Krones to introduce themselves. Ariane.
Hi, Crone Ariane here. I always get thrown at this bit because I never think about what I'm going to say. But basically, I'm sweating it out in the north of Queensland, sending you loads of heat if you're feeling chilly. We're in for an awesome day today. Thank you for joining us. Kobaha.
Here we go. Bonsoir. I'm Crone Kobaha. I live in Arizona near Sedona. I'm a spiritual facilitator, intuitive, and sorry, I'm just going totally blank suddenly. Crystal therapist. I aim to guide people on their spiritual journey, providing inspiration and insight from higher perspective. Thank you for joining us tonight, and hopefully you're going to enjoy the chat.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. Yeah, the energies are kind of like that. For those of you who are watching this, no time, no space, or maybe joining us later. Even I had to, before we got started, it's like, okay, yeah, where am I at? So the energies are just like that right now. So don't feel alone if you're having those moments. So before we get started, we're going to do what we always do to begin our chat. I'm going to read the Metatronic numerology IM keyword phrases most associated with the IKoK. We call this one the 2266 dual frequency. We call that the heart of the IKoK. And while I'm reading these, if you would just give yourself permission to relax and maybe even close your eyes and allow the energy that the words bring forth to just flow over you and through you. We use this time to create the sacred space in which we're going to share and come together in this chat. So the 2266 dual frequency, the heart of the IKoK. I am the master of divine balance. Through the remembrance of the singing of the sacred cosmic song of self, I ignite creation of new realities. I am that which rebalances and heals. And then the 2277 dual frequency. We call this the four cornerstones of the work of the IKoK. I am the form of the sacred structure of collective reality known through the awakened divine rational mind. I build reality upon the foundation whose cornerstones are honor, integrity, responsibility, and expansion of sacred perspective. I am the master builder of collective galactic realities. Want to share this message? Shared it. This is now a part of our coming together. Let it be said, I, Crone Essence Katharis, we, the Krones of the IKoK, hold no answers that can be considered 100%, nothing finalized. What we do hold are perspectives and possibilities. What we share, the information we share, the teachings we share, once shared, become potentials. I'm being led this evening to share what I have written very quickly about the 2277 dual frequency for a little better understanding of that frequency. And this was the one, I'll read it one more time so that you remember. I am the form of the sacred structure of collective reality known through the awakened divine rational mind. I build reality upon the foundation whose cornerstones are honor, integrity, responsibility, and expansion of sacred perspective. I am the master builder of collective galactic realities. With this frequency, here we begin movement into a collective reality experience beyond any this collective consciousness of humanity of Earth has ever known in this current collective projected time frame reality. Here we began the process of further awakening to the knowledge of who we are as collective galactic beings and citizens. Here we are no longer able to enjoy the comfortable luxury of denial and self-delusion of the truth of our galactic origins. Here we awaken to our responsibility for the building of our collective reality of Earth and humanity. For here, manifestation of our collective decisions transpires almost instantaneously in linear Earth time. Here we are as the fledglings tossed from the nest, and here we collectively decide if we fly or crash. Here there is no you and I, no more they and them, no more lesser than or greater than. Here there is only us. Here, wherever we go together. And here, whatever we experience as reality, we are 100% responsible for creating together. Here, our conscious collective journey as Unche Anapau Nagian, the Lemurian language of Lemurian term for the ancient future transitioning in mortals, begins. This is the power of the 2277 dual frequency, and this is where we are moving. Remember, 2020, the year humanity goes galactic. In other words, this is the year we begin the journey into becoming conscious and intentional galactic citizens and beings. This is the point in linear time that our descendants will look back upon one day and say, that's where it began. That's where our journey to becoming galactic citizens, consciously and intentionally, and I mean physically traveling through the solar system, through our galaxy, begins here this year. I know, as crazy as this year has been, that seems like insanity. I get that. But it begins here. Okay? So with this chat, we're doing things just a little bit differently. I myself, as you all know, those of you who are familiar with me and the work that I do, and whether the IKoK or before, I'm the one that throws the information at you that makes your eyes glaze over, you know. So this evening, I'm not saying I won't do that, but I don't have a lot of information. I was told we're going to just let information flow this evening. The detailed information that I normally would share in a chat like this, that's not here this evening. Things are shifting a little bit, okay? I also know that the other two Krones, they have some of their information like they normally share, and but they also have some of this free-flowing, we call it flying by the seat of our pants. So we're going to give this a test. Now, we're not saying that we won't go back on other programs, where I can tell you that in the coming next year, things are going to change a little bit. We're planning on, I'm going to take this moment right here to tell you a little bit about what we have been discussing and decided on. We're next month in December, Our program will be on the 11th of December. I've been getting those switched, December and November. So I did good. Yay, me. On Friday, December 11th will be our December program. What we're going to do there is we're going to do a recap. We're going to recap 2020. We're going to look at it. Okay. And we're going to look at it hard. We're going to say, wow, what was it? Why? What did we learn? Where is it taking us? What was it for? All of these things. And then we're also going to just take a quick little introductory look into what 2021 has in store for us, at least starting out in 2021, because right now there's an awful lot of flux in this collective reality going on. And that is simply because right now, this collective, in the energy that we're in, we are literally making decisions at this point that are going to determine what our collective reality looks like and what we experience for the next 10 to 12 and a half years. And this is for the collective, but this also means for us as the individuals we are. So we'll look at that a little bit too. I want to take this time right now because of next month, because things we are going to do a little bit different. We're going to have more of an informal chat in this recap and looking forward. Okay, so I would like each of you to, I'm going to throw this question at you now to give you basically a full month to think about it. Okay, and to bring your answer back, because we would really like for some of you to share. So the question is, what, if I ask you, what have you got out of 2020? What has 2020 brought to you, taught you, shown you about you? Okay, that has changed you. And I'm even going to say for the better. Okay, and in the sense of what has helped you grow along your path spiritually, emotionally, mentally. What has 2020 done for you in that fashion? We're going to be talking about that next month. I'd really like for you all to think about that, take your notes and write it down, and be prepared to come back and share that with us. I know everyone seems to get a little shy to be on camera. I understand. I remember when I had those issues. So if you're not comfortable doing that, then maybe you could write it up for us and we will read it for you. If you don't want your name attached to it, if you feel for whatever your personal reasons are that you would prefer not to be known, that's fine too. I understand that too. Everybody's on a different journey. Everybody is interacting in mainstream reality in a different way. We get that, we understand, but we would still really like for you all to participate in that. We want to bring everyone into this. 2021 is going to be amazing. Now, amazing don't get me wrong. Amazing doesn't necessarily mean easy. As a matter of fact, the real work begins now and in 2021, but it's okay. That's why we're here and that's what we're doing together. Before I hand this over to, let's see, Ariane, you were going first, correct, this evening. I want to read one more I am keyword phrase. Let me pull this out here real quick. There it is. Now, this is one that this actually came into. In other words, and when I say came into, what that means is I see these, and this is what, you know, to me, this is how I explain it. There are frequency waves. We all feel them that move into and through our reality system, okay, all the time. And we're being gifted right now. We all know, you know, we all talk about it. It's like, phew, man, today was a tough one, or, oh, today was good. You know, all these things. And that's normal. That's, you know, that's nothing. But these frequencies are gifts. They are actually gifts of spirit to be of assistance to us. And we would not be experiencing them as a collective in our reality if we were not ready for them. Okay. So we're not going to go deep into that right now, but just leave it at that. But this one came in on October 17th of this year, 2020. So not that long ago. It was actually on the last chat that I did talk about it. But it is the 4488 dual frequency, and it is very, very much affecting our reality right now. And it's only going to get stronger as time goes on because of where we're going and what 2021 holds in store for us. Okay. So the 4488 dual frequency is, I am the power of structured metamorphosis known to the collective self. I am all possibility. I am all potential. I am the master consciousness initiated. Through the knowledge of sacred geometry, I access the guidance of the divine mind and engineer the form of reality into manifest existence. So if you understand, I think you can see right now, this is really one of the main energies very much responsible for this decision making that this collective is currently in. Remember, I mentioned just a few minutes ago about we are right now, even as we speak, as a collective, with the making the decisions about what our reality is going to look like and what we're going to experience individually and collectively for the next 10 to 12 and a half, 13 years. Okay, so at least the next decade. So this is nothing to sneeze at, all right? We'll talk more about that in next month's chat, excuse me. So we're going to leave that there. Excuse me, I'm listening to see if there's anything else that I need to share before we move on. So I'm hearing, let's go ahead. And I'm going to turn this over to Ariane to share. We as the Krones of the IKoK, we brainstorm, we listen to spirit, we know what is brought forth, okay, for each chat. This is how we work, so that you all know. And we have been talking about this controlled conscious evolution. All right, now this is going to be a series like you all have seen already. There's no set number as of yet, but I can promise you there will be, because there's so much information in that, somewhere between 4 and 7, most likely. They may not necessarily be consecutive. We may take breaks from them, you know, depending on what we're led to do. But what we're going to talk about this evening, and especially what Krone Ariane and Krone Kabaha are going to talk about and share, is very much the first step of controlled conscious evolution, okay? And that is communication. The very first step, the very first thing that has to be addressed for us to control the evolution of the consciousness of humanity. And don't, you know, I'm hearing to elaborate on that word controlled, okay? This is not a taking away someone's rights or privileges or thoughts or, oh, it's got to be this way or that way. What it means, what we're saying when we say that, is consciously intentional, coming together, okay, and controlling, not just being at the mercy of uncontrolled thoughts, emotions, and actions as a collective in what creates our reality. That begins with the individual. We have to do this on the individual level that each of us are, because that is our part, I'm hearing the word crumb or morsel that we add to the creation of a collective reality and the collective reality of humanity's consciousness that we're talking about right now. Okay, Krone Ariane, please, if you would share.
Hi, how are you all? As Essen said, it's about communication, and I have a fair amount to say about this, so I'll get started. All right. So I'm sure that you've worked out by now that the way in which humans communicate with each other is something that I'm pretty intrigued with. And I wouldn't go so far to say that I'm passionate about it, and I'm certainly no expert in language use, but I have been writing and talking about the energy of words and the way that we communicate by using them for years, specifically about those who consider themselves to be spiritual, light workers, starseeds, about how they communicate and interact with each other. I've spoken many times about the energy held within everyday words and how when those words are not spoken in the highest sense, how that energy can personally affect you and how the words that you use can pull you down, how they can limit your potential to excel, to grow. And this effect is not just in the spiritual realms, it also affects everyday life. In our last chat, I spoke on this topic again. And at that time, it was about how our word choices and the syntax and the cadence that we use can actually cause energetic harm to others. And that harm can even happen unintentionally because we're careless and we speak without consideration of the meaning and the effects of certain words. Humans are poised to evolve. It's not the first time we've changed and grown, and it probably won't be the last time. But this time we get the opportunity to consciously choose which direction, which timeline we'll travel. We get to choose what we want it to look like. And that choice happens through the energy held by the majority of the collective consciousness of humanity. That's everybody, not just those following the spiritual path. There's so much opportunity right now at this point in linear time, at this crux point that we're currently in, so much opportunity to make the right choice. We know this. In our physical world, it's so obvious. We're at a place in our reality where humans are able to make a choice about the future of humanity, a choice about which path we're going to choose. And that choice will eventually affect the future of all beings on this planet, not just humans, but every being on Earth. And because we're choosing our future, and because humanity will go galactic in that future, our choices now will affect so much that lies way beyond this place we call home. The choices we're making right now, both individually and collectively, are so important because they will affect everything for the next 13,000 years. And the only way we can work out what those choices should look like is to communicate with each other. And to be honest, I think we're doing a pretty rotten job at the moment. Those who promote the fear and the anger that's been sweeping this planet for so many years and has become extreme in the last few months, they're talking the loudest. Their words don't always make sense, but they say it loudly and they say it with conviction. And humans have a history of listening to those who talk the loudest, regardless of whether what they're saying is truth or not. Communication is the first stage of the conscious evolution of the collective consciousness of humanity. Starseed and lightworkers are here at this point in linear time to maintain their energy, to hold space, so that humanity can grow and work things out in the way that they most desire as a collective. Everyone on this path should be so aware of the words they use and how they use them. We hold the energy, and we absolutely must do everything we can to hold it at the highest frequency we can. We're responsible for consciously leading the way into clear communication. And that leads me into something I want to talk about this week, about how we, the spiritual community, especially in the Western world, have taken sacred words and blessings, often from other cultures, and made them to everyday phrases. I want to talk about how we, the spiritual community, use words of great power in exactly the same way that we yell, "Bye, see you later." I want to discuss how we finish an email, not with best wishes or yours faithfully, but with a sacred blessing. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, provided the blessing is given consciously and with knowledge. We, especially those of us within the Western society, have appropriated sacred words from other cultures and we've bastardized them. When we write in a salutation at the end of a letter or a post, most of us wouldn't dream of using the words "by the grace of Lord Jesus Christ" and the love of God and all the rest of it. We just wouldn't dream of it. So why do we use namaste? I'm guilty. I'm guilty of using such words each time, considering the deeper meaning of the words. Hang on, I've lost my picture here. Hang on a tick. There you are. I lost my picture of the Zoom thing. I didn't know who I was talking to. All right, let's try again. I'm guilty. Again, I'm guilty of using such words without each time considering the deeper meaning of the words I'm using. All right, so let's think about the meaning of that word namaste. It means I bow to you. On the surface, that seems like a pretty good salutation. And it's mainly used like that nowadays, but let's have a bit of a dig a bit deeper. Confused now. I bow to you. It means that you hold deep respect for the other person, that you know them, that you honor them, and that you also understand that because we're all one, that in honoring and respecting them, you too are being honored and respected. How often when you use that word do you think of the acknowledgements that you're making in understanding one of the deeper truths of the universe? But then again, the Oxford English Dictionary simply says that namaste means hello. I'm not religious, but to me, it's like devolving all men into see ya. Just food for thought. Another sacred phrase that we use incorrectly and also stolen from another culture, in this case Mayan, is in Lakesh. Now, I do know a number of people who use this phrase in full awareness of the deeper meaning of the words. And I don't see it overused in the same way that namaste has been. And that's a good thing. In Lakesh literally means I am another you. Like namaste, this phrase is talking of the deeper truths of the universe. I don't exist without you, and you don't exist without me. If you weren't here, I wouldn't be here either. And thinking about that can take you on a very long and very interesting journey seeking that deeper knowledge. When I was first starting out on my spiritual journey, when I first heard of that phrase and its meaning, I thought it was really cool, and I used it all over. Until I started to delve into that deeper meaning and realized that my casual use was disrespectful to the culture and to the deeper truth of the words, because I wasn't using them with knowledge. And that brings me to the final phrase that I want to discuss today. A phrase that's so misused and overused that just to hear it makes my toes curl. It no longer carries the energy that it should, that it once did. But first, before I tell you what this phrase is, I want to tell you what it means to me, to my interpretation. I am the light of creation. I am the light first seen at the beginning of the linear time of our reality. I draw that light into my being so that I can be a beacon to guide and aid those who struggle in darkness. I humbly bring that light into the service of all. I'm merely a conduit in service to the energy and knowledge of the universe. I bless you with the frequencies of creation and with wisdom and with love. And when I say this, my interpretation of this phrase, I feel that energy. I feel it building in my hands and my heart, in all my chakras. I feel the energy of being in service. I feel humbled, and I feel the commitment I've made to this journey, to the collective. All of that energy, all that's bundled up, usually without thought, into love and light. Is it any wonder that I cringe when I hear that phrase being used in that way? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not in any way saying that there is anything wrong with using those phrases. There is nothing wrong with using namaste, in Lakesh, love and light, Gai Sha'in, and more. But please feel the power of the words. Understand the depths of the words that you're saying. Feel the blessing within the words. And then use them in honor of the knowledge and wisdom and power of these phrases. They're not throwaway things. We who are starseed, light workers, or whatever other term you prefer, we're the ones who should be leading the way for the conscious evolution of the collective consciousness of humanity. And the first step is to become aware of the power that we hold in the words that we use. And we should use them wisely. Yes, we all stumble and we all make mistakes. We speak through a human filter. But we've also become complacent. We're desensitized. We're losing the deeper truths, the deeper knowledge and wisdom in favor of fluff. Thank you. Back to essence.
Thank you. Thank you, Krone Ariane. Powerful message. It's remember, communication. Communication it's step one. It's got to be where we start. It has to be where we start. And in so doing, even with that, it begins with us being conscious ourselves of how we're communicating, what we're communicating. Words, you know, you hear it all the time. Why do you think they call it spelling, written word? All right. There's different energy. This is the information I'm hearing. So this is what I'm sharing. And before we turn this over to Krone Kabaha, there is different energy in the spoken word, the written word, the word of silence. Okay. All of these are very specific energies. And when used properly, they're powerful no matter how they're used. And that's kind of the problem, to be honest, because people don't stop and think. You know, we in this culture, it is always, well, Kabaha is going to speak in depth about this, but this is what I'm hearing to share. When we are communicating, okay, we're listening to someone else speak, okay, the vast majority of the time, we're not listening to hear what they have to say. You know, we're not really concerned. All we're doing is listening to go, oh, what do I need to say back to them to show them that I know more than they do, or I'm right and they're wrong. Okay, that's not communication. It's not proper, correct, powerful communication, at least not communication that's going to move this collective forward. That reminds me something in old notes. Let me find that real quick. That this was from a couple of chats ago. This was actually the first chat in October. And this was a message that came through that I shared. And for some reason, it needs to be shared here. It says, this is about communication though, okay? When we start raising our children to be who they are from the moment they are born, instead of teaching them to fit into assigned societal roles, then we as a species will come to know truth. So what I'm hearing about, the reason they want me to share that right now, which may seem a little bit out of context, but to me, I can feel that now. I feel it actually in the heart chakra. When we're teaching our children to be their self, we're teaching them to communicate truth. That's why we have to learn to communicate truth, and we have to learn to hear the truth. So with that, I'm now led to turn this over to Krone Kabaha to share her message. Thank you.
Thank you, Essence. Yes, on the last IKoK chat, we talked about how conscious evolution starts with communication. How we communicate not only with our words, but also with our movement and energy. A slight shift in our body language can convey a new message. And our energy, how we are being, can create subtle ripples of influence that are intuitively received by others and that impact the tone of our words. We become conscious communicators when we are aware of our words, body language, and in every interaction. Today, I would like to talk more about consciously putting attention to hearing and listening. Listening is the other half of the communication equation. We speak while others listen, and we listen while others speak. Listening is the foundation of all effective conscious communication. When we do not listen, messages are easily misunderstood, and as a result, the speaker can easily become frustrated or irritated. Although we may not always perceive it, there is a difference between hearing and listening. The former is a function, the latter a skill. We hear many different sounds. Hearing is much easier than listening because hearing is in kind of involuntary physical ability involving the ears. No conscious effort is required. As one of the five senses, hearing happens all the time and is involuntary receiving of sound vibrations or waves through our ears. On the other hand, listening is an active process and uses the senses of hearing, seeing, or sense of touch. It is a skill that requires letting the sound go through our brain, understanding what has been heard, and processing its meaning. As a listener, we choose what we want to hear and understand the information with both our mind and body. Although our ears, according to their different capabilities, may always be hearing, there is another level of consciousness and connection that comes into play when we listen. For instance, as an example, you can hear I have an accent, but it hasn't stopped you listening to what I had to say about the subject of listening. I hope. Wink, wink. Contrary to general belief, most bilinguals have an accent in one of their languages. From one person to another, foreign accents are perceived in different ways. That is the impression they make on us. I believe it is down to how we are willing to listen to someone who speaks a language with an accent. Are we open-minded or closed-minded? Do we discriminate against speakers with foreign accents? Open-minded people would have a non-judgmental attitude. They would show curiosity, and they would embrace differences. In a similar situation, closed-minded people would shut down. On a subconscious level, they would be worried about losing their identity. Imagine a world in which everyone speaks the same language, a world in which every person has the same accent, the same tone, and the same vocabulary. Sounds incredibly boring, right? Getting rid of an accent is a common goal for language learners around the world. I personally have come to love and value my accent and others. Mine is a mix of French and English because I'm French and I lived in England for 28 years. Accents are a part of us. They help tell our story. They tell a story about where we are from, what part of the world we have lived in, and the different cultures that create our history. Accents are beautiful. They're real. They tell a story. They are a part of our identity, and they represent something incredible. The fact that some of us speak more than one language. Now, as Essence mentioned early on, yes, it's true, we are losing our ability to listen. In increasingly busy and divided world, there are concerns that many of us may be losing our ability to listen. There is another effect of all of this. Not only it is difficult to listen, but it's also difficult to be heard. Faced with this fact, individuals resort to focusing their efforts even more on their own broadcasting, shouting their own ideas, arguments, views, and opinions. Or one person is speaking and the other person is already working on a response in their head rather than listening wholeheartedly. I'm sometimes guilty of that too. Listening is so much more than hearing. It's what happens when we not only open our ears, but also open our minds and sometimes our hearts to another person. Listening to others and listening well is important for our personal development because it allows us to expand our horizon. We sometimes don't learn things from what we have to say, but from what others have to say. We each have a world of our own, filled with our thoughts, ideas, opinions, values, experiences, and perspectives. Collectively, these make up our horizon. One of the best ways to expand that horizon is to experience different thoughts, ideas, opinions, values, and perspectives. We do this by opening our ears and minds to them. We do this by listening. Paying a person respect with your attention doesn't mean accepting everything another person says. Sometimes what people have to say is not very valuable or could even be harmful to us. Their gift is not a gift at all. But we can't judge another person's offerings very well if we have not first allowed them into our minds and hearts non-judgmentally, but attentively listening to them. Only by listening first are we in a good position to know if we have been given a gift or something never to be a part of our thinking or our lives. Isn't it amazing that we are all unique? I personally think that diversity is beautiful. That's a shame that humans think that diversity is about losing their identity as individuals. Diversity goes beyond just appearance. It includes other facets of us, such as how we think, live our lives, and express our thoughts. I realized that not everyone feels the same as I do. They live in social bubbles where they are not exposed to or encouraged to mingle with other races and cultures. In some cases, people subscribe to extreme and polarized belief systems that lead to suspicion and fear of anyone who is different. When we give our attention to other people and try to understand them, we are treating them as people with something potentially valuable to say. In this way, we acknowledge the individual before us whose experiences and perspective are different from our own, maybe giving us something of a gift. Listening well is how we set ourselves up to accept that gift with the full understanding that our own world is limited and that the speaker may be able to expand our horizon and improve our understanding of the world around us. When we listen to another, we allow ourselves to reflect, learn, and grow as we work to make more informed choices in our own life. Listening ultimately helps to create a world in which individuals, while still holding their own thoughts, can be less inward-facing, kinder, more empathetic, and more aware. Instead of trying to aggressively dominate the other person with our opinion, and dismiss their opinion in the process. It is best to try understanding their opinion and perspective on the matter. We don't grow and evolve by arguing with others. We grow and evolve by gaining new insights, opinions, and perspectives. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our viewers tonight and the ones who will be watching this video in no time, no space. Thank you for listening and being open-minded to new insights and perspectives. Now, I would like to share with all of you two stories, well, two examples very much connected to my experience as a foreigner living in a country where obviously people can hear I have an accent. The first story happened about 15 years ago in England. I went to a pub with my ex-husband and we were waiting at the bar for our table to be ready. And my ex-husband recognized a guy at the bar and introduced myself to him. So I started chatting with my ex-husband about different things, and I could see the guy was staring at me. And eventually we had that eye contact. And he asked me, he said, "How long have you been in England? How many years?" So I said to him, "About 15. He said, in a very cocky way, "It's funny, you still have an accent." Yeah, he didn't know who he was dealing with, obviously. My ex-husband looked at me, staring at me, showing his big blue eyes like, "Please shut up, don't say anything." And I thought, no, I'm going to say something. So in a very calm manner, I looked at him and I said, "Do you speak any foreign languages?" And he replied, "Oh, me? No, of course not." "And why? English is spoken all over the world." And then I replied, "Okay, that makes sense. So you can't walk in my shoes, you don't understand." And that was it. I know my ex-husband was not too impressed with me, but it's the only incident, to be fair, of all the time I lived abroad, I never encountered before such reactions, such statements. So yeah, that was the only one. But what I want to talk about is, let's face it, all of this is about perspective. Okay, how you react. Thinking about that story again now, when it happened, that conversation, I was not on a spiritual journey. It was way before my awakening. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, let's think about it. Let's think why this gentleman thought that way. Where is it coming from? And I suddenly realized subconsciously it was fear of diversity, okay? And fear of losing his identity. It's almost like if you're a foreigner, with people like him, you're a foreigner, you live in his country. Not only you're expected to embrace the cultures, to adapt, which is fair enough, I understand that totally. But also you're expected to speak English the same way they do after so many years, right? So that's the first story. The second one, it was one of my ex-pupils. So for people who don't know, when I was in England, I used to be a private French teacher. And one of my pupils was a lawyer. He was in his late 60s, charming gentleman, well-educated, Cambridge University, typical English humor. We did get on very well. And he explained to me one year, he was the president of an organization of lawyers. And they had a conference in Las Vegas, of all places. Why Las Vegas? Because it was about games online, okay? So the last evening of that conference, they had a meal, okay? Most of them with their partners and wives, and my pupil was sitting next to an American lady. And the American lady turned around to my ex-pupils and said to him, "Oh, wow, I love your accent." and in a very calm manner. I know it's very British way, very dry. He looked at her and said, I don't have an accent, you have. Of which I think was funny. I bursted laughing. But again, I can understand why some people would react in a different way and maybe think that my ex-pupil was a bit cocky, arrogant, condescending. So let's face it, it's all about perspective and being willing to listen and looking at trying to understand the other person. I'm not saying we have to agree. No, we all have opinions. That's absolutely fine. But it's the way we communicate with each other. No anger anymore. Let's try to be, more cooperative, more understanding. I know it's going to take time, but hey. But still, well, thank you all very much for listening to me. Over to you, Essence.
Thank you. Thank you, Kabaha. Wonderful information, wonderful personal stories. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things there at the end we were talking about that came to me to share is we all have to understand that to move forward in what we're talking about here in this controlled conscious evolution, not just in communication, because remember, this communication is only where it starts, okay? And that is what we're talking about this evening. Believe me, as we go on in this series, we're going to be talking about other topics that people are probably a little bit more uncomfortable with. And that's my whole point, is for controlled conscious evolution to take place, for us to take control of the evolution of the consciousness of humanity, of Earth, it's going to require us to step out of our comfort zones. It's going to require us to be willing to expand perspectives, okay, to sit and listen and hear, really hear what someone else is saying, and at least take it in to consideration, okay? So if we are harboring within us, this is what I'm hearing to share in the moment, any grain, any seed of fear energy, okay? That's why it's important that we all look at self very, very closely. And that's going to lead me into sharing a little bit more again as a reminder. If we can't look at ourselves very clearly, very closely, very clearly, okay, and go, maybe there is something that I need to be working on. Maybe there is something that, I could do a little bit better at. Maybe there is something that I am, and it's right here, okay? We're going to have to look at close. And sometimes looking at self that close is uncomfortable, but we're going to have to prepare for it. I'm hearing right now my yoga master saying that we have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's a very good way to say it. Because any of you who do yoga realize that there are positions that, especially when you first start them, and that to me is a perfect example right here. When you first start it, that's the key. It's uncomfortable. It's difficult. It takes concentration and focus. Okay. But the more you do it, before you know it, it becomes comfortable. It may still be stressing you in the sense of stretching you outside of your comfort zone, but suddenly your comfort zone begins expanding and the discomfort becomes less and less and less until it's something that really, in all honesty, your brain's going to click one day and go, I don't know why I didn't do this before. Okay. This looking at self, I want to address that. And I mentioned this on the last chat because this is information that came in then, but it obviously needs to be a reminder. we've now, along with all the, because there's not just one thing going on, there is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of work going on right now. And once again, that alone pushes us outside of our comfort zone, because sometimes they even kind of, I'm seeing they twist up. Okay. And it takes us a moment. That's where the breathing comes in, to take that step back. And the breathing means simply, okay, when we get into those positions of stress and anxiety, where I use the term fall off my Zen, where we fall off our Zen, that is the moment. That is your cue to go, okay, wait a minute, literally take a deep breath, step back, walk away, do whatever you have to do, but look at self. October 16th, 2020 through February 22nd, 2021. Now remember, nothing's, a line in the sand. These are generalized time frames here, okay? We're moving into, or have moved into, actually, a time of what I call a time of mirroring and reflection. This is a time where there is an emphasis on looking very closely at self, our relationships with each other and with the collective, especially through the filters of the beliefs we hold and how those beliefs guide and direct our actions and interactions within this world and reality. We're being led to look at how we, as the individuals we are, influences and determine, as the individual we are, influences the determination of the beliefs others choose and how they react and interact with this collective reality based on the mirror we're holding up for them to see their self and ultimately their reflection of self. Example, how is it, or how may it be, that the beliefs we hold and the reflection we send forth for others to see is or can play into creating anger, frustration, even violence that they're acting out, and in how they interact with the collective reality? In other words, are we, the individuals we are we in any way feeding and fueling anger and violent behavior others are exhibiting because of the beliefs we hold and act on? Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we're responsible for the behavior of others, except in the interaction of energy exchange, especially subconscious energy exchanges between us and the collective as a whole. Now, remember, what I do, my focus is always on the energy. Yes, it manifests into everyday mundane reality in all these different fashions, but as I have taught, the other two Krones can tell you, they've worked with me for several years now. I have taught for as long as I can remember at this point, look at the energy of any given situation first, always and forever, but especially if it's a tense, stressful situation, okay, and interaction. If you'll take a moment, if you'll step back and look at the energy, okay, in other words, let go of what's happening in 3D reality, the interaction between you and another, or the interaction in you in a situation, or, whatever the case may be, and realize this is just energy moving, because all we are is coalesced energy manifest into a physical form. So the energy exchange that we have with others, or they have with us, or we have with the collective as a whole, that's where it begins. And if you'll stop and look at your energy interaction with whatever individual, collective, whatever situation first, and go, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't look so good. That energy there doesn't look so good. And what that does, when the energy is knotted or isn't flowing properly, or the colors, because everyone sees and experiences energy differently, and it's their interpretation. So if you just stop and go, okay, wait a minute, I feel something here that doesn't feel quite right. There's a knot. It feels like something's not flowing properly. And you take that time, okay, to work with the energy first. In other words, and you breathe into it, and okay, I'm going to use an example. There's a situation, whatever it might be, because the situation is just that. The interaction, that's the illusionary part. We're talking energy. We always work energy. We're energy workers. Come on. All right. Look at it first. Oh, what happens is if it's not flowing right, then tension is created. It doesn't flow smoothly. A knot happens. Things come back. They won't move right. Okay. If you stop in that moment and you go, okay, this doesn't feel right. It's not moving through here properly. The exchange of energy between me and this individual that I'm having this confrontation with, whether minor or major, that is an energy exchange issue. Straighten that out first. Literally do the energy work. Use a visualization process, okay, to visualize beautiful energy, whatever color. Intuition, guys, intuition. Follow your intuition, okay? If a color comes to you, let's say you have blue coming at, you know, that you are sending out blue and they're sending a red energy to you and they're knotted up and all of this. And then suddenly there's this, it's not flowing right. And it gets knotted and it gets ugly right in the center. You will see the energy and your inner vision maybe become muddied, okay, and clouded. It's not clear and it's tangled. It won't flow back and forth. There should be a smooth energy exchange. That's communication. That is energy communication. This is where it starts. Do the energy work first. And I promise you, if you do, and then go back and address the everyday mundane reality situation, in other words, have the conversation to smooth out the issue that's taking place, because that has to happen. There has to be that action. I promise you, it will resolve itself so much more easily and quickly. You will be amazed. Okay, so remember, we are now sitting within, upon many other things, a time of mirroring and reflection. This means looking at self, and it also means looking at self in how we communicate in all ways, but start with how we communicate energetically with others. Okay. Remember, we're all one. So even our communication with others on a wider perspective, energy understanding, is still communication with self. The notes I took as the other two Krones were speaking, I want to share those, and then I'm going to ask, we're going to go back to the other two Krones for sharing some more information. Accents, like Kabaha was talking about. Just going to start with this. Accents are really energetically, remember, we're doing energy work. Accents in the physical, the human physical form, are really a part of the base of our energy signature. We, you know, energetically, we know we're spiritual beings manifest in human form. Okay. And as such, on this, as the energy beings we are, we don't have a name like we do as the humans we are. We have an energy signature. That is how we are known and recognized to each other, through energy signatures is what they're called. Okay. That's the energy flow that's going back and forth. We have, it's known as your aura. Okay. All of these different terms that we use, that's your energy signature. All right. And at a very, very base level, as far as the human part, okay, of our energy signature, because our energy signatures, as the spiritual beings we are, tell our story, just like Kabaha Kron Kabaha talked about in her. They tell our story about who we are, okay? But they do it on a cosmic level. So our accents, okay, are like a physical manifestation of a part of our energy signature as it's flowing through this specific incarnation. So start widening that perspective, start seeing and understanding this diversity, this fear of diversity. And that's exactly what it is. It's a fear of losing self. It's a fear of not being the individual we are. We'll do a program, I think, on that later on sometime, maybe after the first of the year, I think. And one of you Krones, if you could take a note for me in the moment so we don't forget that, I think we would do well to do a program discussing why and all the different reasons for the fears of diversity. And it's about losing self, okay? Okay, we know that, let's see. Oh, I'm trying to remember where this, it was with Krone Ariane when she was talking about the power of words and the blessings and the energy that go along with using these sacred words and terms. A lot of you have probably seen it, but if you haven't, I've shared, it's an article I wrote years ago, and I reshared it because it was very relevant to tonight's chat, and it's titled The Gentle and Forgotten Art of Blessing. So if you haven't read that, you can go to my website and find that at shambhalanewearth.com, or find it on Facebook. You can go to the IKoK page and find it there. But it just, another little bit different perspective about what the gentle and forgotten art of blessing is, because we have forgotten, and get wrapped up in the quick pace reality and forget to be in the moment, and communicate with ourselves and energetically, because we have to communicate with ourselves energetically before we can even begin to try to communicate energetically with someone else. We'll leave that there. It's okay. It's enough's been said. All right. I think, let's see. I'm hearing Krone Kabaha, if you will pull a card real quick, and then we're going to jump right straight to you, Ariane. So when you're finished, if you'll just hand that over. If anything comes up that I just feel I absolutely have to open my mouth, I will, but let's try it.
Okay, so tonight we're going to use the moon deck, fuel deck. So let's see. Wow. Yeah, bear with me a few seconds. I'm going to look at that card, but yeah, I can see the connection with tonight's chat big time. Now, the message on the card is collaborations brings more sweetness into my life and into the world. How about that? Hang on. Can you see it properly? Yeah.
Yeah. So communication, huh?
Exactly. I mean, to me, it's interesting. The other thing I've just spotted, the number on the card is number 6. To me, number 6 is harmony, finding the harmony. So if we connect it to tonight, we basically, the conscious evolution starts with communication. If we want to work together, yes, the proper way, look at those bees there. They're all working together properly. They're communicating properly. And I would say, I can hear the word. It's about opening up, reaching out, okay? Communicating that way in order to create something beautiful and positive together. So if we take that to another level, to the collective consciousness of humanity, we've been talking for months about it, trying to help the collective consciousness of humanity to move forward to create a new reality. Well, here we go. It starts with communication in a big way to create something beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely the only way it's
That's the
going
only
to happen is through communication.
And the other thing I wanted to share, which struck me immediately as well, I recorded recently a video. We haven't posted it yet. But one of the cards I've pulled is not this one, but it's from another deck. It was the bee spirit. Yeah. And the message came through was about the sweet reward, the sweet gift. And if you remember, tonight I mentioned about the gift, communicating with someone and being open, having that perspective and try to understand, maybe teaching us something and giving us something as a gift. And I'm seeing it as well like that too. The honey which is produced there is that gift, that sweet, sweet reward, the sweet result because of good communication and working together. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the record, you said the number on the card was 6. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. The Metatonic numerology I am keyword phrase for the 6th frequency is I am love's responsibility. It is about taking on our share of the responsibility and for the family of man and teaching that. It is a feminine energy. It is about the goddess energy, if you will. It is really the baseline frequency of the goddess energy, which is about teaching. Okay. But teaching in a fashion of that's not harsh and pushy. Okay. But shows by example. So if you think about, if you take those attributes and bring them into the art of communication, we see how that fits. Okay, Ariane.
Hi. It's interesting that bee cropped up there. I talked about bee as an animal medicine a couple of months back, and that's cropped up maybe 5 or 6 times in the last 3 or 4 days. Bees are great communicators.
They're great communicators, and they are very much about community, and I'm going to use the term hive.
Working together.
Right. Hive mentality, but in the sense of a collective. They are a collective, and they are about communication. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are working hard. So we're talking about responsibility here.
Right.
About working hard.
Yes, and it's going to be hard work. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. We're not off the hook here just because we're getting to the end of the crazy year. Okay, so thank you. I have had a bit of a challenge with this one, but I'll tell you about that later on. Animal medicine. The animal medicine that's come forward today is quite an interesting one. It's an iconic bird for my part of the world. It's a black cockatoo. And there's a very interesting story in how this information came to me. And to start off, I want to share that. Black cockatoo came to me with a message about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was on my bicycle, on my tricycle, heading towards work into town. And I go through this pathway that's right on the edge of the ocean. It's muddy. There's tea tree and eucalyptus there. It's called Wallam Scrub, and it's an ideal place for crocodiles to hang out. And I cycle through this in order to get to work. So when I cycle through there, the ocean and all this stuff's on my right. So I'm like this. Okay, on my back, I'm watching the ocean, I'm watching that mud, and I'm getting ready. I have one hand on my hooter as well, so that if a crocodile comes, I'll hopefully scare it off with my little kiddie hooter. But this is what I was doing. I was heading into work. I can see Esther's laughing her head off at that picture now. But not looking at the road.
I gotta admit, that's quite an image. I'm sorry.
Isn't it? Where all the others that come. Okay, so I'm going down this road, watching the ocean, watching for crocodiles, because there had been 2 sighted just there. So I was being very careful. I wasn't watching where I was going. And suddenly there was this squawking flurry of black and scarlet coming straight at my head. And I jumped on the brakes and I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I was like, really, you can imagine it. I'm 65 years of age. I thought I'm about to have a heart attack. If there's a time to have a heart attack, it's right now. It's going like this. And what it was two black cockatoos. They were coming at me very, very determinedly, straight at my head with a message. Now, the problem here was, yeah, message received. I'll look at it later. I'm on my way to work. I've got 7 or 8 hours working in a museum. And then I went home, and home was in transition, in the middle of moving house. And so I think I have a reasonable excuse for completely forgetting it. I completely forgot it. And then about a week ago, I was once again cycling down that particular path. I go down there most days, cycling down that particular path. And there, in the middle of the path, standing there in the middle of the path, so I couldn't get past them, 2 huge black cockatoos. And honestly, you'll laugh here, Essence, the one on the right, it was yelling at me. It was telling me what for. It was going to town. It gave me a really strong roller kick. It was like going at me. The one on the left, I'm sure it was channeling my mother. You know, the mother look that you get, you know, when you've done wrong as a child? If it had hands, it would be on the hips with the mother look. And I was really told, I was being told off. We gave you a message, you haven't done it. So here it is. It was, I felt well and truly, I really well told off. I really did. The message itself is actually really good. It's positive and it's challenging. The main message that Black Cockatoo had for us is about creativity. Now, when you think of creativity, you start to think about painting, singing, dancing. For me, at this moment, I'm deep into weaving. There is an energy wave traveling through that is instigating creativity at the moment. It's a strong wave. You'll get these urges to be creative in some way, distinctly possible. Well, Black Cockatoo is not necessarily talking about being creative in what we would consider a traditional sense, so in dance or in painting or making a really good meal or something like that. Black Cockatoo is saying to be creative in finding your truths, in looking within, in working out 2 different things, looking into what's gone on in your life, what you've experienced, especially in these last few months, and how you have overcome them, how you have grown through them, how you've lifted yourself up and lifted your energy up through these activities that you've and experiences that you've had over the last few months. And give yourself a pat on the back. Do not lose the fact that you have come through a period of time and you've survived and you've grown. And in the opposite direction, Black Cockatoo is saying, but the work's not done. You still have to look at work that you are doing on self. That's not over. You need to look at something, but you need to look at it in a very different way to how you normally do. You need to look at how to improve and how to grow and how to raise your energy and raise your vibration by looking at what brings you joy. And at the moment, that's so hard. We all tend to look at the fear-filled things that's all around us. But we need, Black Cockatoo is very, very much not in encouraging that there is no gain without pain. Black Cockatoo does not work that way. He says, that is old hat. We don't do that. We do not gain through pain. Yes, it is a choice to do that. You can go through pain and you can choose to grow beyond that, but it's not necessarily the way to do it. Black Cockatoo is saying we go forward by looking at what brings us joy, what brings us pleasure, what lifts us up. and we do it in a creative manner. Two examples here. The first one is, I've mentioned that that creative wave hit me and I'm weaving. I've never done weaving before in my life. There is lots of different threads. And what's happening here is I see the spiritual world. I see our connection with each and every one of us and each and every being on this planet, not just humans, as being connected by threads and weaving a tapestry. I am weaving, and what I am doing is bringing that knowledge into the physical world through my weaving, bringing the threads of individuals together into a community, into a whole, into a collective. And it is beautiful. It's diverse. It's mixed up. There's all sorts of colors. There's bits hanging off it. There's all sorts of things. But it's so representative of what's happening in the collective. And that is how that level of creativity is appearing to me. The other way is to say, you need to step out your comfort zone for sure, but you need to do it in a way that brings you joy. What brings me joy is helping other people. And I'm a very structured person. I'm a person who knows exactly what she's doing, when she's doing it, how she's doing it. I don't mind throwing everything out the window and rolling with it when I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. And I do know what I'm doing, and I do know what I'm talking about. So my challenge here, the challenge I mentioned before, and that I am doing right now, is throwing my notes right out the window. I don't have any written notes, to the point that Spirit actually gave me a hand on that, because I wrote down my notes last night. I closed my computer, I opened my computer, and they're all gone. The blank piece of paper was still there, but no words on it. They're gone. It was like, okay, you got to roll with this one, girl. So I'm doing it. I'm telling my story. I'm taking Black Cockatoo's advice. I am creating my future by stepping out of my comfort zone, by stepping into something in a less structured way that gives me joy. And Black Cockatoo brings you the empowerment to do that. Black Cockatoo strengthens your soul and your spirit. And if you can learn and grow through joy and through happiness, your frequency is going to increase. And one of the things we as star seeds are doing is holding our frequency at the highest possible level that we can. So we have to preserve what we know is good and not just get overwhelmed by the fear of what we've lived through. And we have to look at the ways of increasing, not through gaining through pain, but through gaining through the joy of life and living. And that's the message that Black Cockatoo stood there, hands on hips, gave me the mother look, and told me I had to tell you. So thank you.
Thank you. That's an amazing message. Thank you. And very well done, Ariane. Yeah. Ariane and I had a little bit of a heated conversation earlier.
You know how we say, and you know how we say we have to do mirror work? Essence is my mirror. and how Essence said before that sometimes when you do mirror work, it's not exactly comfortable. I attest to that. But if it's uncomfortable, but you listen and you do the work, man, it's worthwhile. Absolutely. Thank you.
Amazing. I'm impressed. I'm impressed, sister. I want to share, as you were, I want to share the language of Lemuria term, if there just, and it is Panakagayakos. Panakagayakos. And it means sacred medicine panacea for the soul. That is where we bring, that is what we are looking for. That is what we can, this energy wave that Ariane mentioned is one that I was shown a few days ago. I posted about it. There is an energy wave currently moving into our collective energy field that is very powerful, and it is going to keep intensifying all the way, at least until the end of June 2021. This is that creative energy wave that she was talking about. The thing about that is, if we aren't balanced in ourselves, if we aren't communicating with ourselves, if we aren't accessing this information, and a lot of people won't be, that's just the honest truth, okay? Especially those who are still living in energy of fear and miscommunication and strife and overwhelm and all of these things that are going on. But that's our job. That's our job as starseeds, as light workers, energy workers, whatever term you want to identify with. It's all saying the same thing. That is our job, okay? Like Ariane just said, to hold that frequency. We're holding a sacred space, a frequency space, okay? And access this energy wave is amazing. It's powerful, and it's the one that on the meme that I created for I said you could expect something to the something to the effect of slingshot experiences, expect slingshot. What I meant by that was, and I was talking to the other Krones about that, I don't know, yesterday, whenever it was, here recently, that was the term my guide used, was slingshot. So I always go with what they tell me to me, maybe a better way of understanding it would be more like a ricochet, if you will, or a boomerang. What that slingshot, what they're saying is slingshots, slingshots can be used to, send forth a projection. That's not the right word. What am I looking for here, Ariane? We talked about that. A propulsion force. There it is. A propulsion force, okay, to send something forward, but it is most often, okay, like uncontrolled. It takes a lot of skill and practice. It's a learned skill, like Kobaha mentioned about listening, okay, to control the projectile, that propulsion force sent forth by a slingshot. And if not, then it can, like, oh, you'd be ducking because it might hit something and, come back on you. That's what they were talking about when they use that term, slingshot experience. But when we know and we understand that if we access and utilize this high energy, and once again, when it hits, and we'll all have those moments of overwhelm and, oh my gosh, stop right there. Stop in that moment. Stop. Except if you're driving at 75 miles an hour, pull over and stop. Okay, sorry. I had to say that. And breathe, realign, reset, and then go. Because this energy wave that is intense and powerful is carrying such creative, but that's what it's coming for. It's bringing this energy for us to create a new collective reality with. It's like I'm hearing it's the mortar. We use it as the mortar. Okay. So gather it. And it also holds within it that Pana Kagayakos, that sacred medicine panacea of the soul. I believe we're going to get ready to finish this chat. Either of the other Krones have anything else you want to share here, or no?
Yeah, if I may just add into what you were saying about this creation energy wave that's coming around. I've been experiencing it for about a week now, just maybe a little over a week. And for me, what it is, it's creating for me a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It's making everything in my life is recognized within the spiritual, but it's making it a stronger connection, in that I'm knowing that what is in my life, a computer, has that whole energetic, spiritual aspect. It's a tool for that. And it's just consolidating everything in that way for me. And it's actually really, really good. It's solidifying everything.
Right.
Just wanted to
Yeah,
say that.
no, thank you. It's, yeah, I appreciate that. It's that, like I say, you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. And when you really start working with that concept and, you know, meditating on it, really bringing that into your life, that expands in ways that you literally have those aha moments. Okay. We'll be looking at that some more too. So with that, I'm hearing we're going to go ahead and finalize this chat. As always, we want to thank everyone for joining us live. We want to thank those who will join us by listening to this recording and in no time, no space, joining us that way. It has been our honor and our pleasure to talk and to share and hopefully be of assistance. That is our goal. That is what we all live for. It is our work. And we are very honored by each and every one of you. We will end on a note of silence, a sound of silence. But before I do, I'm going to throw this out, even though we'll be talking about it a little bit more next year, but some of you have already seen it. And where did that note go? There it is. 2021, a year of creation through the use of conscious control of sacred sound, mastering sound cymatics. It's going to be an amazing year if we, excuse me, grab a hold of that energy and utilize it properly. And it all begins, remember, it all begins with communication, conscious and intentional, controlled communication, looking at self and how we interact with self, with others, and with the collective as a whole. With that stated, I'm going to go ahead and let the other two Krones go ahead and say their goodbyes. And we're going to end a little bit differently. Our meditation is going to be a little different. And they literally just brought this up. And those of you who are familiar with me know when I say they, I'm talking about my crew. I call them my crew, the Q4 and other guides and aspects of self. But Krones, if you want to go ahead and say your goodbyes and thank yous very quickly, we can do that. Kabaha.
That's it, got it. Well, thank you very much for basically listening to us tonight. As I mentioned in my notes, thank you for being open-minded and for new insight and perspective. And thank you for joining us. So thank you.
And for me also, I'd say thank you. Today was a little bit of a challenge for me there, but I think it worked. But I do want to say thank you. And there was one thing, when you structure something and you read it, you tend not to miss your points. When you're saying it off the cuff, you sometimes miss something. So Black Cockatoo actually sent a challenge, which ties in very much with what Essence was saying. That creativity, looking backwards and honoring what you've grown and learned and not losing that energy and knowledge that you've gained. And as well as moving forward, creating your future with joy. Black Cockatoo set a challenge for you, as Essence was saying earlier, to think about the things that you have grown from through this year, that you have grown through joy. So you may have started off something that's been fearful, but you've overcome it and you found the gold in there. You found the bling. So if you can think about that and have it and join us next time on the next chat, we'd love to hear your story if you'd like to share it. So thank you, Gaisha-ing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so if everyone will find a comfortable position and maybe close your eyes and relax. This is our meditation for this chat. I'm going to read to you Max Ehrmann's 1927 poem, Desiderata, is very much about communication with self, with energy, with the collective. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are a vexation to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let not this blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideas, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all arity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Kara unsche prana. I am the ancient future breath of life. Kara unsche prana. Kara unsche prana. Kashaim.